like you mentioned those kids, they see it as a last shot to get in the league, to talk about the USFL, spring football, talk about, like the possibility of this being a feeder for the NFL. Like, how does that work? Because you've been on the other side of it. You've coached at a high level for a long time in the NFL. You've seen different generations of players and styles of play. Like, you've seen, a different way that teams go about accruing talent. Like, is this a viable way to accrue talent for teams? And then, like, what are the motivations of the players playing? Like, are all the players doing that to try to get in the NFL, or are some just like, hey, I'll make $5,000 a week to go bust some heads?
Great question. You've got a combination of guys. I would say 90% of them, maybe a little bit higher than that, are doing this to, like I said, show a play, show their ability to, and with the hopes that they get into a camp this summer. Okay, you got some other guys that have been trying for years or few years and can't do it. And they just have this love of the game. They want to compete. They want to play, and they just want to play as long as they can. So the interesting thing about the USFL is that we will provide resources for them to finish their education, which is cool. Mm-hmm. That's not been talked about. And then we're going to provide every opportunity for them. So once our season's over, they have permission, if you will, and I'm not speaking for the legal stuff, but they have an opportunity to be signed by an NFL team.
Right.
Okay. I have two or three players right now on our roster that are eligible for the draft next week. Okay, but they elected to play, thinking that they weren't going to get drafted, hoping that they would be able to further showcase their abilities on tape so that they might be invited to camp this summer. So you got a unique combination. And the one thing that, that I expressed to them early on is, hey, look, I did it for 22 years. I know what they want. I know what you need to do. And so therefore, everything we do is going to be geared towards that. So trust me when I say, hey, look, we have to acclimate. We've got to go through this process to get you ready for that opener, but we only have one practice a day. We may get rained out. We may have to have a walkthrough. Right. Understand that we need to condition a little bit. If we need to back down, just trust me, I'll get you there. Thus far, they haven't. I believe that they're there for a good little push here in this short season.
What about the rules? Because you've been on the competition committee, and there's some really cool or potentially cool things that are being experimented with. How is it for you? Like, you're watching a drone hover over a player, like not just the rules, but the production stuff. It's just a different deal entirely. Let's start with the rules. Would you keep any rules?
Yeah, so 35-second play clock versus 40 speeds it up a little bit. Going to put a little bit pressure on your punt team and the subs and things like that on third down. That's obvious. But overtime, let me go right to the end of the game. Overtime's cool. No, you haven't seen it yet, but overtime is going to be a hockey shootout, if you will. Best way to think of it. So you got to tie it into regulation. You win the toss. You go up. You get to go for 1 2-point play from the 2-yard line. If you get in, then I get to go and match.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we go to the next period. You go, I go. If you get up 2-0, you win.
Yeah.
So and then you got 3 periods. The first one is 3-1, and then it kind of goes sudden death. But what you've done is you've taken that length of time and you just reduced it for player safety, and you made it exciting. So it's trade plays, one play, another play, and then first 1 to 3 basically. So that's cool. The interesting thing, the most significant change in my mind has been what they've done on the kickoff. All right. So we back the kickoff back to the 25. So there's not going to be any touchback. So every kickoff is going to be returned, which means it's not in an NFL. There's a touchdown, kickoff, ball goes in the end zone, guys kind of gear down. You go off the sideline and go to commercial. Kind of a wasted play.
Yeah.
Wasted play. These things are coming back. Okay. Yeah. On top of that, they've taken the return team. If you're on the return team, your return team has to crowd the kick. Okay, so 8 of the 11 return team members have to be within a 10-yard zone. So in essence, they've created a punt return.
Right.
So everybody's kind of dropping back together and then coming forward. The ball's live for the first 20 yards, but it becomes dead or it becomes a punt and after 20. So if you bloop the ball as a kickoff team and it goes more than 20 yards, it now is officiated as a punt. It rolls dead. They get the ball right there. You're not going to have all these bodies trying to recover the kickoff. So the kickoff is live for a short distance, 20 yards, and then it becomes a punt. So it's unique. And what happens is, in the drive start, just over the last week, the drive start, the kickoff return team, the offense is starting their drive way up towards middle of the field because you have such a good, so that's exciting play. The returns are longer, they're more exciting. And so, but on top of that, I mean, you got guys running a long way, and you got starters doing it. So that's the exciting part. Beyond that, I think, most of the rules are consistent. There's some different things with respect to, a couple of the other special teams aspects, but player safety. But those are the big things, the overtime. Now, here's one that is significantly different that they haven't seen. So your offense, Chris, you score a touchdown, okay? You get the option now to go for 1, go for 2, or go for 3.
Yeah.
Okay, go for 1, you're kicking the NFL extra point from the 15-yard line. Go for 2, you're going to put the ball on the 2-yard line, and you score from the 2-yard line. You get 2 points. To go for 3, you're going to put the ball on the 10-yard line, and you have 4th and goal, 1 play to score, and then you get 3 points.
I'm going for 3 every time. Every time.
Right, 4th and goal. That's a typical defensive mentality that you have.
Yeah.
Because that's a bitch to do. That's to 4th and goal from the 10.
Yeah, it's tough. And the field shrinks. That's the hard part. It's cheese. It's like biting the cheese because everybody knows like red zone is so tough. Football players know that like it's tough because everything's constricted. And so on top of that, you only have 1 shot to get it. It's tough. Yeah,
but you got to get to the goal line. You got to get 10 yards to at least. So as soon as you score, you have the option, your team now, whether you scored a touchdown and went for 1, 2, or 3, now you have the option to wave your hands and go, you know what, I want to keep the ball. So now instead of kicking off, you put the ball on the 33-yard line, you put your offense on the field, and you have a 4th and 12. I mean, if you gain 12, you get the 45, you keep possession of the ball.
Yeah.
So that is going to allow, when people say, oh, it's a 1-score game or a 1-possession game and things like that, that stuff all gets out of whack depending on analytics and your perspective and how you learn the game. But it allows teams to come from behind and catch up and narrow the score a little bit. But realistically speaking, 4th and 12 from the 33-yard line, if you don't convert, your opponent has the ball right there and then they're going in. So a lot of that stuff is ahead. It's in the future. Some of the stuff I imagine will come up this weekend. It has not come up yet. And because of this is where the league is right now. I don't know if you got a chance to see the opener. A lot of people did. But the worst thing that could have happened to that opening game on last Friday night was, a kickoff, a holding on the kickoff return, and then a false start, and then a punt. And then, people are just going to turn it off. Okay.
Yeah, it's like those crews in Seattle that we used to have to deal with. When we go up to Seattle, it'd be fucking penalties left and right, all on us for no reason. Yeah,
exactly. So the first 2 drives in to start this USFL season were scoring drives, big plays, a lot of cool stuff. So people going, oh, so you don't want, no disrespect to arena football, but that's the way it is. But we don't want 80 to 78 ball games. No. Okay. That just is, you lose interest and it's hard. Nor do you want this and this is not, I didn't say this, but other people have, you don't want prison ball where you've got penalties and fights and stuff like this. We had 27, 24, 17, 12 games. We had 21, 17 games. And it's good football. Yeah. And then you add the broadcast, you add the drone that you mentioned too, which you've seen some of the shots from the drones and things like that. I think it might have just clipped the Skycam cable or whatever. But anyway, you've got some production aspects, which are off the charts with Fox. I mean, it's Super Bowl quality stuff. Yeah. And now you've got players that are starting to get in shape, understand what they're doing. So I think it's just going to get better and better.
Let me ask you this. What about the chip in the football? It's the measurements are different now? There's less cumbersome or?
The chip in the football is designed for a shot tracker to track the football, maybe track the trajectory. Where we are right now is I think the chip in the football is affecting the kicking game.
Yeah.
From a standpoint of the kickers. Now, kickers are kickers, and they're going to collude, and they're going to group text and stuff.
And play video games all day while we work hard in practice.
Exactly. But the kickers last weekend, I think, were 3 for 12 or 13 in field goals. The chip in the football right now is causing the kicking ball to do some really weird things. So the chip ball will remain in place with respect to the offense and defensive ball. I think we got to push pause a little bit to see if it's affecting. But the design is really good. For example, the guys that run on the field, one guy's holding the one chain, the other guy's holding the other. They're dragging that chain. How many times you have to step over the freaking chain when they came out?
A lot.
Okay. We don't have a chain. There's no chain. There's 2 poles. They come out. They have the distance, and that's why they're using a laser that will interact with the chip, and it'll say it's a first down or not. Me personally, I miss the smell of grass. I miss the smell of the old tape, and I'm an old-fashioned.
I'm with you. I don't know if you're about to say it, but do not get rid of the chain, because the chain is fun for me. I love everybody huddling around the chain. I know coaches don't.
That was a mental thing for you because you wanted to reassure yourself that you could still get your feet off the ground.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. So
jump over there like fucking hula hoop, or not hula hoop. What's that? Jumping rope. I haven't been a kid in a while.
So here you're uprights, and so the ball goes over the top. The field goal goes over the top of the uprights. That little chip in the laser from the upright will say it's in or it's out. Yeah. So they're working on the technology. There's a place for it, but there's also not a place for it. And there's not a place for it if it's going to affect, to me, the flight of the ball. If the quarterback spins it perfectly and that ball just tails away out of bounds, uncharacteristically, I think you have an issue. But the quarterbacks are fine with it. We're just kind of work the kicking game. But nonetheless, it is it's an interesting part of the technology and the future of this game.
Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.